ascertain where you stand on this. Artie's been on 3 different times saying that you came on before the show began and said, Artie, go after me. You know, fair game, that you're a big Artie supporter, so you knew what you were getting into. So why don't you explain here, were you a little taken aback by Artie Lange's attack last night on your first show?
No, well, all true, first of all. I did tell him that in the green room, and I am a fan of his, and I went up and I said, hey, have some fun, you know, take some shots at me, do whatever, you know, I'm fair game, whatever you want. He goes, you know, and he said, I was a fan of your dad's, I'm a fan of yours, and you know, it was fine. And I think when he went out there is no doubt in my mind that he went out there and gave us exactly what he thought we wanted him to give us. And did it cross the line? There's no doubt. And I think there were some things that were said, 4 or 5 things that I wish weren't said. But I think he went out there with the intention of kind of mucking it up and trading barbs, and you know, like your last caller said, I mean, there's some things that I fired back as best I could, but I can't jump down into that. And I think what it is it highlights the fact that it is live TV, and like your last caller said, it is on some level very exciting. I mean, it's not what I would choose to have happen on that show, and it you know, part of it was unfortunate that was kind of the way everybody was left with the show after what I thought we did everything we wanted to do with Favre. I thought we did a good job at the middle part of the show. I thought Irvin was great, Ocho Cinco, and then we get to that, and that happened. And I think he just took it a hair too far, but I hold no ill will, and I'm glad on some levels that he was on the show.
All right, now, I spoke to some HBO people today. They were down on him. They said, you know, we know what we're getting into to a degree, but we never thought it would go that far.
Well, and I agree with that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I knew we would, you know, I wanted him to have fun, and I wanted him to get into it, and I think in the end, he took it too far, and I don't think he realized in the room, and I don't know if it translated on TV, that, you know, that was the feeling. You know, I've known Paul Rudd since I was 18, and I just met Jason Sudeikis, and they were kind of sitting there like, what do we do? And, you know, it happened. And, you know, we kind of learned from it, and,
were you taking it back, Joe, at that first thing right out of the gate?
I didn't take it personally at all. You know, it's no different.
Were you blown away by it? Were you surprised?
Well, yeah, I was stunned because I'm not used to being on a show with that kind of language. I mean, that's not me. And you know, I think when you're Artie or you're anybody on his show, and I do listen to the show, I think your senses to that kind of get dulled a little bit, and I think the line moves a little farther, and so my line's different. And I think most people's line is different, and I think he jumped over it, and you know, we just move on. It's not the end of the world.
Now, he came on here a couple of times. I like Artie too. No, I don't know him from as well as you do, because you know I'm not a huge.
I never met him before last night.
Right, but you listen. See, I don't even listen that much, but I mean, I know Artie. He's a big sports fan, lives here, and I mean, I know him like you say you would know him, but you might know him from a personality standpoint more than I do.
Okay,
but
yeah.
he, you know, he came on here today and he said, my job there, I wanted to outwit Joe Buck. Now, I said to myself, and I said to him, Artie, it's Joe's first show. Give Joe a break. Why do you feel you got to go on there and can't you try to be funny without upstaging Joe Buck? And Artie gave me the impression and told us that his job there in his eyes was to outwit Joe Buck. How about that?
Well, and I think he's being truthful in that, and I think maybe, you know, me having that conversation before we went out there led him in that direction. Again, I think it was. You know, language-wise was not at all what I was looking for. In fact, there was another story that he had in the pre-interview that had to do with Tom Brady that I said, please, I'm begging you not to say it. And that's not what I want on the show. He said, no, it's on my new album, don't worry about it. I'll debut that on my new album. I know that's not right. So I felt, when I went out there, I felt like he knew that there were some boundaries. And whatever those boundaries were, they were different than mine. But, you know, all in all, it's something that people are talking about. Unfortunately, I think the end of it, more so than the beginning of it, which, I'm really proud of what we did with Favre, and I was thrilled that he came on, and at the end of the hour, I think there was a net gain there. I really do.
Well, I mean, getting Favre on your first show in studio that's a heck of a spot. I couldn't agree with you more there. Now, did you think that Artie went out of his way to try to overpower your two buddies who were with him in that 8-minute segment?
Yeah, I think if there's one real frustration I have more than any of it is that I didn't get a chance really to talk to Jason or Paul. And I know that Jason's busy. I really know Paul is because he flew in from a movie set to do that, and he was on for like a blink. And I just think he was kind of frozen out of the conversation because if he dipped his toe in the water, I think he knew he'd get bitten off too. And, so I had to sit there and take it, and that's fine. And I honest to God, Chris, I didn't take it personally.
Were you uncomfortable though, Joe?
Well, yeah, I'm uncomfortable because I don't like the language, and my family's there, my daughters are in the audience. How old
are your kids, Joe?
Well, my oldest is 13, and my youngest is about to turn 10. And I think they're 20 and 25 now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You got a 13 and a 10-year-old kid. And they got Artie Lange there on with their daddy for their first show, and they got Artie with that kind of language.
Yeah, and I didn't think the language was going to happen like that.
What are you going to do?
That's the real disappointment.
Well, what are you going to do at the next dinner table when your 13-year-old says something and you say you can't say that? He says, hold on now, Daddy. You had Artie Lange on who said all this language. Why should I listen to you? What are you going to say then?
Well, we went back to the hotel last night, and I just preemptively washed both their mouths out with soap.
That would help. Yeah.
So you know what? I appreciate you sticking up for me, and I'm sure callers have called in good and bad, and Buck stinks, or he handled it well, and whatever it is. But believe me, I'm not losing any sleep over it. And again, I really think he went out there with the intention that he was doing what we wanted him to do, and on some weird level. I can't blame him there. I blame him for the language and the vulgarity of it, and kind of dominating the segment. That's really more of the problem, is that he just dominated the segment, and I had two other people there that in a time crunch I'm trying to talk to, and I just couldn't.
Did you get, a couple of times you could sense that you were getting a little annoyed, the construction line, and a couple of times you were getting annoyed at him.
From the beginning. I was annoyed from the beginning because I'm powerless. I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. I watched it back, and I watched it back when I got back to the hotel, and I thought, you know what? On TV, it felt a lot better, believe it or not, than it did in the room, because you're sitting there and you're in it. And when the camera's not on you the entire time, I think it takes a little bit of the edge off. So when I saw it played back, I thought, it was over the line, no doubt, but it didn't. I didn't go to bed thinking, that it was as bad as it felt when I was in there going through it. And like I started to say, you're damned if you do. You're damned if you jump in there. You're not going to kick them off. Then it becomes a fight. Then it becomes a spectacle, and that's not what I want. And you're not going to jump in there and start trading, crude barbs with the guy because A, I'm not going to win, and B, all I'm going to do is just sully my reputation. So I had to just sit there and kind of take it for 9 minutes, and then I move on with the rest of my life. It's not a big deal.
Do you feel now? Artie made a big deal about the fact that the audience was howled over in laughter. The cameramen all pumped up. You knocked them dead. What a performance! Da-da-da-dee. I said, listen, Artie, in that situation, that's what they do tell you, because they're not going to say, boy, you stunk. No one, they're going to be good to you. It's like asking Steinbrenner for an autograph. They're going to ask you for an autograph whether they like you or not, and they're going to tell you did a great job whether you did or not. Did you think the audience loved them that much?
Well, I thought he hit with a couple of things. I thought he hit with the thing with my dad.
That was good, yes.
And that was something that was in the pre-interview that I wasn't going to lead him into, but I knew somehow he was going to get into it. And I'm glad he did that. I was holding my breath. My mom's watching at home, and I'm thinking, God, don't take a detour here. And he didn't. I thought that was good. Yeah, there were some hits in there, and there were some misses where I think, he didn't have the crowd. But like your caller said, and it's the only one I've heard all day, they take chances, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think overall, I think he came off looking like he crossed the line and didn't help himself.
All right.